God. Yay. Let's talk about this football club. Yay. So, guys, the road to European glory begins for Ruben Amorim and his Manchester United side on Thursday night at home to Norwegian side Bodo Glimt in the Europa League's brand new format on match day 5 of this brand new beginning for Manchester United hopeful European comeback, where we will qualify for the knockout stage of the Europa League. We will finally get the first win under Ruben Amorim, and hopefully we will see a bit more of a positive result on Thursday night, especially that load of shit that we all sadly had to experience and watch against Ipswich Town, where Manchester United struggled to even get a point away at Ipswich Town, who are struggling as it currently stands in the Premier League in their first season back as a Premier League club, who are also fighting relegation straight back to the Championship. I'm just kind of hoping that we see a bit more of a positive result from Old Trafford on Thursday night, where I think a lot of people are saying that yesterday was a massive positive. Yesterday was an okay result. Manchester United were very, very lucky to get a result. We were lucky to get a point, and Manchester United, at the end of the day, at least they didn't lose. I'm afraid to say I massively disagree. I think yesterday was a massive, massive reality check for Ruben Amorim and his Manchester United side. And I think, in my view, I feel sorry for him after one game. I feel really, really sorry for the guy, where basically he had a load of players to choose and select from during the 2-week international break. And a lot of players he wanted to really get to know and get used to their methods weren't available to him. And a lot of people are saying, well, what did you expect Ruben Amorim to do? What did you expect him to select? And what team did you exactly want him to pick? At the end of the day, a lot of those players, again, have already down-tooled under the new manager, where they can't play the new system, they can't play the new setup, and basically can't be bothered to try in a new formation where we are used to playing 4 centre-backs, 3 midfielders and 3 attackers, and we have decided to completely change the system, which suits Ruben Amorim's style of play a lot better. And the players basically can't be bothered to get on board with the new manager's ideas, his brand new way of playing, and basically can't be asked to try it. And unfortunately, it was a massive reality check for Ruben Amorim, because a lot of those players, after we got the goal yesterday evening, we basically gave up. We didn't know how to respond when we got ourselves into a massive positive situation 81 seconds in, and we were second best to relegation threatened Ipswich Town. I mean, if you're struggling to get a point against Ipswich and you're struggling to get any kind of a win, then I'm really, really sorry. But a lot of the fault was on the players yesterday. And I feel now the time has come that Ruben Amorim has got to read the riot act. After 2 games, I think he must realise that there's a lot of shit at that football club that should be nowhere near this team. And there's a lot of players that he doesn't really want to select, but again is having no choice, because certain players are the face of this football club and they have to be picked because Manchester United need their egos getting bigger. And a lot of these players who aren't good enough have down-tooled after every manager before, and all those managers that they've been under have all been sacked. And I think for me, this is heading one way and one way only, that I'm still going to stick by what I said. We are going to be exactly in the same situation in 2 to 3 years' time, where Manchester United yet again are sacking another manager. A manager who's basically been hung out to dry by Ineos, a manager who's been told to basically get on with it, and a manager who's got a load of shit deadwood players that he doesn't want, who doesn't fit his system, and is basically been told don't expect much to come from a new squad rebuild, don't expect much money to be spent in January, and forget next summer. I'm really sorry. Like, we are relying on the cup competitions, especially the Europa League, where against a Bodo Glimt side who have picked 6 points up from 4 from a possible 12, are on more points for us, are in a better league position in the Europa League table as it currently stands. And Manchester United now are having to win their next 4 games to get into the Europa League knockouts to avoid another possible qualifier. And if we end up in that situation, do you really trust these players to get over a qualifier where we really need to actually qualify for the knockout stages automatically, instead of ending up in a situation where Manchester United is basically make or break again? And Europa League for me is probably the competition that I've got the most guarantees over that we can win. I think we are still the favourites. I don't think the stats and the statistics so far would say Man United are going into this tournament or this Europa League as the current bloody favourites. But at the moment, you look at the quality and you look at some of the shit in the Europa League and some of the crap that we are playing that we're struggling to break down. Manchester United are very lucky they've got 6 points from a possible 12, and it has not exactly been great. We've got 4 games to rescue ourselves. We've got 4 games to get into the knockout phase. And I think failure to get into Europa League is going to be massive, massive damage for next season, because this is our best route into the Champions League. Manchester United are not exactly going to start climbing the Premier League table very, very quickly, especially if you're struggling against teams like Ipswich. And a team like Bodo Glimt, who have so far done very, very, very well this season, a team from Norway who are also having a very, very good league season. It won't be surprised if this is an FC20 situation where, again, we were expected to beat FC20. We were the favourites at Old Trafford. We expected to beat them, and that was under Erik ten Hag. And I think Ruben Amorim has got big, big questions ahead of him for the next few weeks, and especially for the next few games where we've got Bodo Glimt, Arsenal, Everton, Manchester City, Tottenham, all in the month of December. And I think the Europa League, we have to win. We have to win this competition to get back into the Champions League next season. But I think, Ruben Amorim has got to start evaluating his squad a lot more better than what he's currently done at the moment. And I'm not saying he's a bad manager and a bad coach. I think he's the right one. I think he's the one we can get the best out of. And I think he's probably the correct decision to give him the manager's job. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of those players basically don't fit the system. They don't want to play the system. They don't want to try and adapt. These players, unfortunately, are stuck in their old ways where we will make the decisions ourselves. We will decide how we play. We will decide how we perform. And I think the team selection he had yesterday, that was a lot on the football club. That was a lot on Manchester United. And I do blame the club for putting Ruben Amorim in that situation yesterday, where, again, we saw the likes of Johnny Evans, Diego Dalot, Casemiro, Eriksen, Marcus Rashford, who all can't be bothered to perform, who can't be asked to expect the levels that the manager wants out of them. And especially for those 5 where they are massive, massive dead wood, who have been kept on by this football club because of sentimental FC. We can't get rid of because of the wages they're on and how much they're earning. At the end of the day, I don't care how much it costs this club. I don't care what it's going to take to terminate their contracts, and I don't care the losses they're going to make on these players. At the end of the day, those players should have been nowhere near that lineup yesterday. They should be nowhere near the team on Thursday night. And the one thing that really concerns me was some of the comments that Ruben Amorim come out with yesterday, that we're going to see a lot more struggle, we're going to see a lot more pain, and it's going to take a lot of time. At the end of the day, the thing I disagree with on the statements and some of the comments from the manager is that we are expected to wait. Time needs to be given. We need to be patient. Unfortunately for Ruben Amorim, mate, we haven't got time. We haven't got patience. We need succeeding football straight away. And I think 13 years without the Premier League is a long wait. 16 years without winning the Champions League is a long wait. Not winning the FA Cup, not Carabao Cup for 2 seasons is a long wait. Only winning the FA Cup since the days of Louis van Gaal last season under Ten Hag is a long wait. And also, not winning the Europa League since the days of Jose Mourinho, I think is a bit of a long wait. Those are the comments that really, really do concern me going forward, is that we're expected to wait. We're expecting to give the manager time. We're expecting things to change, and things will change, but it's not going to change till a lot more next year in 2025. And I'm afraid to say, for Ruben Amorim, those comments were massively, massively naive. I think we need football and glory to be succeeding straight away. We need to see a style of play, which I think we're starting to see. We need a DNA, which I think we finally started to see yesterday. And we started to see the way Manchester United are beginning to play the football that I think Ruben Amorim is trying to get out of these Manchester United players, because obviously they've seen so many setups, so many changes, and so many formation setups under all the previous managers before. I think it's hit these players massively. I think these players didn't expect this much of a change. They didn't expect to see a formation change. They didn't expect to see a tactical setup, and they didn't expect to see the football that Ruben Amorim is massively demanding out of these players. But when these players can't do it, when these players aren't capable of doing it, how are you expecting Ruben Amorim to succeed? How are you expecting him to be successful? And how are you expecting him to achieve good things with this football club where Marcus Rashford shouldn't be here anymore? Diego Dalot, I've been telling you lot for this for the last few seasons. He's nowhere near good enough. Casemiro and Eriksen should be in a retirement home. And Johnny Evans also should be in a retirement home. Like, those five alone are the biggest problem at this fucking football club, because they are players that were favoured under Ten Hag, had massive favouritism amongst the coaching staff, and had massive favouritism from the owners, from Ineos, from the board at Manchester United, and they are still being given a chance to prove themselves that they can still do a job in a Manchester United shirt. I'm afraid to say what we witnessed yesterday was the downfall of so many of these players' careers, where you're not seeing players track back, you're not seeing players defend, you're seeing players not putting their body on the line, you're not seeing these players put tackles in, you're seeing these players out of position, you're seeing these players leaving so much space for the opposition to attack in, and you've got these players who can't be asked to do the job that is basically being asked of them by the manager. If those players aren't listening, and if those players can't be bothered, they need to be removed from the football club permanently. They need to be got rid of. They need to be gone. Because this is why Ten Hag suffered, because of these fucking players. Threw him under the bus. They got him sacked. They got rid of him, and basically Player FC won again. If that's what the football club wants to do, and it wants to be Player FC, and it wants to favour certain players in this team, and they want to be given an opportunity, then let this downward spiral of Manchester United continue, where we are basically a bike. We're going to repeat the cycle, get a new manager in, all be positive. 2 to 3 years' time, we're back where we were with Ten Hag, where we're sacking yet again another manager. No matter what players we have, no matter how we set up, and no matter how we change the formation, these players aren't the right ones to play the way that Ruben Amorim wants us to play. And if certain changes need to be made and certain favourites have got to be sold, then the manager has got to be listened to. Ruben Amorim is looking at that team. He was barking out orders at Dalot yesterday, and Dalot wasn't doing it. He also said that Joshua Zirkzee should have been more in the penalty area to offer more of an attacking chance inside the Ipswich penalty area. So he had a dig at him. He also had a dig at Dalot for his passing and his inconsistency. He had a dig at Rasmus Højlund also, who's not in the correct positions. You've got Marcus Rashford, who is too fucking lazy to track back after the first goal from 81 seconds, did fuck all for the rest of the game, and basically had to be dragged off again because of a piss poor first half and second half performance. And you've got two midfielders that, again, have been a long-term problem that Erik Ten Hag had to basically go with last season and again at the start of this season. And again yesterday, the Casemiro and Eriksen problem in the midfield is the biggest fucking problem we've got at this football club, where we've got a midfielder who's on £350,000 a week, and we basically got Eriksen, who we bought in for free, who was done after one season. And all of a sudden now, come to fruition, Casemiro's levels degrading, and so is Eriksen's. They can't keep doing it for 94 fucking minutes. They can't keep playing every game as the midfield two with the supported wing backs. They are not your answer to make that midfield solid. The midfield selection yesterday was an absolute joke. That needs to be corrected on Thursday. We need to change that midfield up massively. And my concern is we are going to end up having to adapt back to the 4-3-3 setup, because if you've got two midfielders and you've got the extra midfielder now in the attacking front three, where's the extra support? Where's that extra midfielder who can get that ball off the two CDMs, who can get that ball to the centre attacking midfielder, who can then get the ball to the front three to then attack the opposition goal? This is what my biggest concern is with this 4-3-3. We don't have a proper left back. We have a right back who can't play in the back three because he's more of an attacking right back. We've got two centre backs who can't be together because the combination doesn't work. De Ligt's game suffers because of Johnny Evans. Why he was allowed to be brought in and was allowed to be selected yesterday was an absolute joke. And again, people say, well, Johnny Evans has done all right. Johnny Evans has done this. Johnny Evans has done that. At the end of the day, he should have never been brought back. That was a massive, massive fuck up for Ten Hag. When he wanted a centre back and he wanted a world class centre back, they basically gave him Johnny Evans. That again, for me, was another failure from Ineos and the board to sign someone for free. Just because Johnny Evans has been here before doesn't mean he's the Johnny Evans he was back then. Johnny Evans should have never, ever been considered to be allowed to be brought back to this football club. They should have given Ten Hag that centre-back signing when he asked for it. And the football club said, no, we're penny pinching, it's sell to buy, financial fair play. Look at the fucking position we are in now. We are basically down to Johnny Evans and De Ligt. And when you had Yoro, who I think has to come straight back into the team, Yoro, for me, has to start Thursday if he's not match fit or not. At the end of the day, there was no excuses for yesterday to start Johnny Evans and De Ligt together, whose idea that was to start those two is an absolute disgrace. Who's ever trying to set Ruben Amorim up to fail, whoever is doing it, butt your nose out and keep this out of the manager's way. Because at the end of the day, if players are being picked because they've been part of Man United's history, and if players are being picked because of how much they're on, and if players are being picked because they're favourites of the board and the owners, they need to be removed. You can't keep relying on the dead wood to get this football club back to where it needs to be. We need to move this dead wood crap out of this football club, because I am not waiting. I'm not having time and I'm not having patience. I want to be successful this season. We're relying on the cups. We're relying on the Europa League. We're relying on the Carabao Cup, and we're relying on the FA Cup. Those are the only three cups that I think Man United have got any chance of realistically winning, because top four's gone and people still think top four's a massive possibility. Get it out your head. It's not possible, because we are way off. We are fucking miles off top four. We are basically relying on trying to win the cups again to make sure that we're in Europe next season. Because if we're not, and we're not in any of Europe's elite competitions, the laughing stock that we already are, and the laughing stock that will become even more, will be inexcusable for this football club to suffer. But the fans and the supporters will be the ones that will suffer the most and will get bantered by every fucking rival fan, every fucking rival fan base. Because if Man United aren't in Europe, that hasn't happened since the days of George Graham, when he was managing United and we got fucking relegated. Does anybody want that? Does anybody really want that? Because I don't want that. I don't want to see us get relegated. I want to see Man United be the best club again. But unfortunately, because the club are setting Ruben Amorim up to fail, because basically telling him, get on with it, you've got players, what are you complaining at? These players don't want to. These players aren't good enough. Why is the manager never going to get listened to? Why is the manager, who's given you a clear indication, especially yesterday, there's a lot of crap in that team, that I'm basically putting in this team to give you a massive hint that you need to move on, and I'm stuck with them. I'm stuck with them. There was no excuses just because Garnacho and Agate were all on international duty and shit like that. I don't give a fuck if they're on international duty. I don't care what day they were back. I don't care how long they've not been back in Manchester. At the end of the day, that team should have been a stronger team than what it was yesterday, because we got it massively wrong. And if we get it wrong on Thursday, Bodo Glimt will pounce and they'll do an FC20 and get an unlikely result where we should be battering these. No disrespect in the Norwegian League, the quality from Norway to the Premier League in England is massive. The difference in quality is through the fucking roof. If we can't beat Bodo Glimt, it sounds like a fucking shampoo brand. Let's try some Bodo Glimt in your hair. Extra conditioner, extra shampoo. Let's go to Boots and buy some. We need to beat these, because if we can't beat Bodo Glimt, who are so far 6 points from 12, isn't exactly bad from a club that have been very, very good in European football in the last 2 seasons. They've been absolutely brilliant. But at the end of the day, if Manchester United can't beat them, we are in massive trouble of becoming even more of an embarrassment. Because if we have to go through a qualifier to qualify automatically, we're in big trouble. we're in massive trouble, because I can't see how Man United are going to be able to get past the knockout phases into the latter stage of the Europa League, where if we come up against someone with better quality, Man United are going to get ripped apart. Man United will get torn. Man United will get shown up by the lack of quality that we've got, because there is a massive lack of quality, because players who are still getting selected shouldn't be picked anymore. And I hope Ruben Amorim realises that from yesterday. I hope he realises, well, what did Rashford do for the last, 90 odd minutes? What did he do after the opening goal? Decided not to track back, decided not to defend. That's what you get from Marcus Rashford. And there's a load of fans saying he should be sold in January. If Man United could find a buy for Rashford in January, I'm sorry, but I'm fucking doing it. I've had enough of Rashford. I've had enough of Xerxes. I've had enough of Højlund at this point, because neither of them are good enough. Neither of those three are the answer to Man United's goal-scoring problems. Marcus Rashford at this time, Joshua Xerxes was a Ten Hag signing, and Rasmus Højlund was expected to be this elite top-class striker that was brought in at Man United, who was going to bang the goals in week in, week out. We panicked yesterday and decided to chuck both strikers on, and we played Joshua Xerxes and Højlund up front together, expecting that to work, expecting them to work miracles, get in the right positions in the opposition penalty area against Ipswich and bang the goals in. There was no creative play, because we had the only attacking options we had going forward was having Bruno in the front three, having to support Xerxes and Højlund, and then you've got wing backs in Ahmad and Diego Dalot. Diego Dalot frightens the shit out of me. Ahmad, for me, is the only hope that we've got attacking at the moment. And people will say, well, you've got Xerxes, you've got Højlund, you've got Rashford, you've got Garnacho, you've got Anthony. Realistically, I would only pick one out of those five. That would be Garnacho and that would be Ahmad. For the rest of them, those three players, well, actually, you've got Ahmad, Garnacho, you've got Rashford, you've got Anthony, you've got Højlund, and you've got Xerxes. Only 2 out of those 6 options should have a future in this football club, because they're the only best players that we've got in this team. Because the rest of it is shit poor. It really, really is. There is no attacking threat up front. There's a lack of midfield options, even though we had Mount, Agate, and Mainu all on the bench yesterday. And I don't care if people say, well, Mainu's only just come back from injury. Mount's only been back for 2 games. Agate's been on international duty. At the end of the day, I really do not fucking give a shit. Those 3 are massively better than Eriksen, and they're massively better than Casemiro. Why are they not starting? Why are they not getting selected? And I think, do you know what? It's probably hit the nail on the head for Ruben Amorim that he realises Casemiro's done, and he realised Eriksen's in the same boat. That midfield was the biggest fucking problem, as well as that back 3 and as well as that front 3. The wing backs, I had no problem with Ahmad, because he's the only one actually giving a shit. He's the only one that's trying. He's the only one that's putting effort in. Ahmad's position in that team needs to be sealed week in, week out. We can't keep rotating this team. We can't keep changing things up. Ruben Amorim has got to realise he needs to be playing his strongest team week in, week out. You need to do it for the FA Cup. You need to do it for the league. You need to do it for the Carabao Cup. And we need to do it the Europa League. I don't care the games they have to play. I don't care the amount of games they have to participate in. I don't care how much game time these football clubs are having to suffer in. At the end of the day, they're fucking professional footballers. Get on with it and stop fucking moaning, because you are getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week to perform and be the best that you can be. If you're not going to do it and you're not willing to try, get the fuck out. Because I've had enough now. I've got to the point now that if you don't pick your best team and you're selecting the favourites, Ruben Amorim is basically sacking himself. He's got to realise now enough is enough of this. And he's probably realised, oh shit, what have I walked into? Look at the crap I've got. Look at some of these players that I don't want here. Look at the lack of quality. Look at the lack of organisation. Look at the lack of quality. Look at the lack of the front 3, attacking front 3. Look at the centre-back options that I've got. Look at the midfield. And he realises, oh shit, I've walked in here. Look at the fucking mess we are. Look at the mess I'm going to have to put up with. And I tell you what, the smile got wiped off Ruben Amorim's face yesterday. The smile went. The excitement went. The buzz went. And I feel sorry for Ruben Amorim. It's not his fault. And if he gets sacked in 2 years' time, I will still back him. And I will still expect him to get back in football because he's a top coach. He's a top manager who did so well for Sporting Lisbon. Back-to-back league titles and 2 cups. That is excellent. But again, the quality from the Portuguese league to the Premier League is night and day. You're going to get figured out in the Prem. But if you can set us up the way you did at Sporting, and then you can bring better quality in, then that team will get better. Man United will get better, but we need better players. And like Danny Murphy said on Match of the Day 2 yesterday, when Chelsea did a 3-4-3 and they had Kante and Matic in the midfield and they had Diogo Costa and Hazard up front, there was Chelsea's biggest threat, was their midfield, because they had 2 solid CDMs and they had a quality attacking front three. This is what Man United need. But again, look what then happened at Chelsea. I think that was it under Conte? Was it under Conte or was it under Mourinho the previous season? They got Conte and started playing fucking amazing football. Look at the quality that they were making. Look at the goal-scoring opportunities. Look at the quality Chelsea had. Look at the 3-4-3 that was used under Conte at Chelsea. Look at the news. Look at the quality that Chelsea were then. They had 2 quality CDMs and they had a quality attack in front three. And Danny Murphy's right. He's absolutely right. This is going to take hundreds of millions of pounds more to get this club where it needs to be. There is another who needs to go, Onana. I think Onana probably, at the moment, is probably Man United's standout player as well as Ahmad. Because Ahmad got us the assist for the goal. Rashford got the goal, but did fuck all after that. And Onana, if he wouldn't have pulled off those 2 magnificent saves against the Lap yesterday, Man United would have lost that game 3-1. We would have lost that game comfortably if Onana didn't make those 2 saves yesterday. So I think at the moment, Onana's kept the most clean sheets this season. I'm afraid as soon as that was mentioned, Ipswich then scored, which again was probably commentators' curse. But at the end of the day, they're probably Man United's 2 best players, and they kept us in that game yesterday. And if it wasn't down for the Onana saves and the Amad Diallo assist, where was the attacking play coming from? Because it wasn't coming through the midfield, and the back 3 were a joke, and the front 3, don't get me started. Really do not get me started on that front 3. Because playing Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho and Rashford in a triangle 3 setup, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. I'm afraid to say, if you want more of an attacking team, you drop these players. And the Paul Pogba news is absolute bullshit. That was all rumours. It was fake. He's training in Miami. But again, would Paul Pogba add massive difference into the midfield now, even though what happened under Mourinho and it ended up badly in the end of Paul Pogba's Man United career, where he basically shat on the club, shat on the badge, and basically went back to Juventus on a free. So at the end of the day, I would rather take Paul Pogba back than see Eriksen and Casemiro in the midfield 3. Because then you would have Ugarte, Mount, Mainu, Pogba. Does that not look a lot better? More options for Bruno to be a bit more supportive for the attack in front too. I want this 4-3-3 to work, but I think, he's got to realise that the midfield's got to change. Mainu has to come in my view. I think Ugarte's got to come in. I don't know why we changed the midfield after Ruud van Nistelrooy. I don't know why it was a good idea to route back to Eriksen and Casemiro. We should have stuck with what we did under Ruud. We should have kept that midfield 3 of Ugarte, Casemiro and Fernandes, because that was working all right. That was doing quite well. And I was against that midfield 3 at one point. And all of a sudden, a few games after Ruud, it started to glean on me. Like, it really started to convince me that maybe that is the right midfield to go with. But it showed yesterday when Ipswich had that 3rd attacking midfielder, they had an extra man in midfield. Man United's extra man in midfield was supporting the front 2, was supporting Garnacho and was supporting Rashford. And again, Ruben Amorim has come out saying, well, we've got a lot of games, we've got a lot of matches, we're going to have to change the team. We didn't do well after the goal. Yeah, we were right, but we can't change the team. We've got to make the right changes and the correct decisions that benefit the team going forward. And that is by removing certain players. You remove the favourites. You get them out this team for good and you keep them on the bench as a rotation. Because I think, for Ruben Amorim's sake, for God's sake, realise that Rashford isn't good enough, realise Delo isn't good enough, realise about Eriksen, realise about Casemiro, and you know what? Realise about Johnny Evans. Like, if you want a successful team, and the big blow is that we've got Martinez who's out for 2 to 3 fucking weeks. I mean, don't start bringing back the injury excuses, because that ain't no excuse anymore. We can't hide under the Eric Ten Hag excuses anymore. Ten Hag isn't here anymore. Ten Hag deserved to be sacked. He was fucking setting us up to fail. But again, if we start to see that, and we start seeing the same phrases of speech and the same type of comments that Ten Hag would make with Ruben Amorim now, that would concern me, because we would be heading straight back to failure again. I don't want that. But again, Ruben Amorim, he has to realise that, you've worked with Agati at Sporting. Why aren't you starting him? Well, he was back from international duty late. I don't care. You're professional footballers. Get on and do the job. You should be able to travel back from miles and miles across the globe and still play against Ipswich. There's no excuse. International football's pointless. It's a crap competition that no one gives a fuck about. If I'm a professional footballer, it's club over country, I'm afraid. It's club massively over country. I don't care about the nationalities. I don't care about the countries across the globe. I would rather play for my club and play with better players than play for bloody England, who are stuck with bloody Kane, Saka and Foden. Like, you've got to realise that clubs should come over country. And now I think Ruben Amorim has got to start being a bit more ruthless and state that you're not going on international duty. You're staying here. If you're not fit or you're injured, you're staying here. You're not going away, not travelling hundreds of miles across the globe. You're staying here in Manchester, recuperate, and you can be back playing for us. Fuck your country. Fuck your games. Fuck your internationals. Fuck the Uefa Nations League and the World Cup qualifiers and the Euro qualifiers. Screw that. Clubs should come over country. So that there was no excuse for half of those players not to be starting yesterday. And Ruben Amorim has got to bring them in, because if he goes with the same team that he did with yesterday, we're in fucking big trouble. And like someone said yesterday, if we see that midfield of Casemiro and Eriksen for the next 3 or 4 games, we're in big trouble. Massively in big trouble. Because if he's got no balls to drop them, and he doesn't want to use Mount, and he doesn't want to use Mainu, and he doesn't want to use Agati, who he worked with at Sporting, then again, you've got to question the manager's thinking and the tactical setup, because if you've gone with this 3-4-3, you can't keep playing Delo at left wing back. You've got to put a left back there. You had Luke Shaw available. You had Malacia available. They're not fit. They're not ready. And if I chuck them straight back in, they might get injured. At the end of the day, neither of those two should be at this football club either. They're both injury prone. Both should have been moved on. Man United have stood by them for so many times, saying, they're such a sentimental part of the club. They've done so well, what they've both been through personally off the pitch with all the injuries. Does it look like I care? They should be fit. They should be ready. They shouldn't keep fucking picking injuries up all the time. If Luke Shaw wouldn't have broke his leg, he wouldn't have been putting up with all those problems. But then look now, I'm going to remove the bolt that I had put in my broken leg. Look at all the injuries he's had since that bolt was removed from his broken leg. Look at the amount of injuries around that injury. It's fucking ruined his career. That's on Luke Shaw, I'm afraid. And as for Malacia, should have never been signed under Ten Hag. Was an Eric Ten Hag signing. But it would have been better to have a proper left wing back and a proper fucking back three. That would have been a lot more defensively solid. But no, we're sticking with Delo. We're sticking with Johnny Evans. I mean, it's naive management. It's naive coaching. And like, some of the comments Ruben came out with yesterday, half the stuff there, half these players shouldn't have to be coached by that. Half these players' mistakes they've been happening in games, I shouldn't have to be coaching that. Thank you. We've got a manager who's actually calling out the mistakes. We've got a manager who's not afraid to fucking upset a few of them by criticising their fucking performance. Thank you. Because when Eric Ten Hag saw that, he fucking backed them. He stood by them. We don't want negativity. We can't criticise them. They're giving the all to the club. No, they're making mistakes. Fucking crucify them. That is what you get of a proper manager who is not afraid to call out the fucking bang average mistakes these fucking players are making. Because there was way too many yesterday, and I'm sick of it. And Ruben Amorim is the right guy to get rid of this. He's the right manager to call this out, who's not afraid to go for the juggler, who's not afraid to point out where mistakes are being made in his team's play. That is what you get from a coach. That is what you get from a manager. He needs to bang the nail on the head about that and realise, do you know what? At the end of the day, I picked that team. I made mistakes. It was the wrong midfield. It was the wrong front three, and I should have realised that. Ruben Amorim's got to take that on the head. He's got to realise that that team selection was wrong. He should have brought Euro straight back in to support the centre back, Mazraoui in the back three with them, and then bring Luke Shaw or Malaysia to play at left wing back. The decision to select Ahmad at right wing back was the correct one because you saw a lot more creative and attacking play for Ahmad in that position, which I didn't really expect him to do. Because instead of playing right wing, you're now at right wing back. Do you expect the right wing position, now he's playing at right wing back, to benefit him? I thought it benefited him massively yesterday. I thought Ahmad probably, to an extent, was probably player of the match along with Onana for the 2 saves he made. They're the only 2 positives I got out of that game yesterday. That's the only positives I've got, was Ahmad and Onana. And again, I've been critical of Onana for some of the mistakes he's made in goal. He should have kept a clean sheet. He should have saved it yesterday. But unfortunately, when you've got Mazraoui jumping like a fucking kangaroo in front of him and taking a massive deflection off the Omari Hutchinson shot, that might not have gone in. That might not have gone in the back of the net if Mazraoui wouldn't have got in the fucking way in the first place. And maybe Ericsson, Casemiro, Rashford, or Johnny Evans maybe decided, you know what? I need to put a tackle in here. I need to win the ball back. We need to stop this attacking play. We need to stop this attacking threat. I need to put a tackle, or I put my body on the line and prevent Omari Hutchinson from scoring that goal. Because I'll tell you, if one of those 4 would have done it yesterday, that Ipswich goal wouldn't have happened. Omari Hutchinson would not have had that shot. But he was given too much time, too much space, and the United players backed off. That's also got to stop. We need to start putting our fucking lives on the line for this club. These players need to realise you're not going to get away with it anymore. You're not making the mistakes you did under Ten Hag. This is a new regime now, and you will do what I tell you to do. He's got to lay down the fucking law. And that is what I get from Ruben Amorim. That is the personality I get. That's the body language. That is the vibe I get off this coach, that he's not afraid to actually go in on these players. That was what Ten Hag was too pussy to do. He was too scared and too fucking frightened to do that because he backed them when they got criticised. He backed them into a corner. He backed them with all his heart, saying, well, do you know what? We don't want to hear the criticism. We don't want to hear the stuff on social media. I will deal with it. Ten Hag never dealt with it. He backed them and supported them. But when mistakes were happening, Ten Hag didn't rectify them. He didn't sort the problems out. That was another problem with Ten Hag's management. He didn't sort the problems. He let the mistakes carry on. He didn't rectify any of them. And you have to realise, with Ruben Amorim coming in, I think he's probably realised after game 1 stuff that players shouldn't have had to be coached because of the mistakes they made. That's what you get by a manager. He also complained about the way Bruno Fernandes, wanted to win the ball. He has to be there to support. You can't just let him do everything. It needs to be a team game. The players need to support one another. There was none of that yesterday. The only bright spot we got was the Amad Diallo run to take on both those Ipswich players. There's a player, after 3 days, he said, I quote by Ruben Amorim, after 3 days, the quality and the difference that Amad Diallo is making is being justified. Thank you. That's what you get a manager backing a quality player like Amad. If you give that player the game time and you give him the time that he deserves, Amad Diallo will deliver. He's got, for me, Amad Diallo is the only one, realistically, at this current moment in time, who has got his name on that team sheet. For the rest of them, it's very debatable. I think if you're changing the team, you change the back 3, you bring Euro in for Evans, you drop Delo for good and bring Shaw or Malacia back into the equation. You keep Ahmad at right wing back. You play a midfield of Mainu and Agate. And then you play a front 3, Garnacho, Højlund and Fernandes. But I think Hernandez would be better dropping back into the midfield too to help win the ball off them, to then help get the ball more forward to the front 3. But then if you're playing a front 3 and we've got no right winger, then where's that extra man to get the ball to Højlund? Where's that man to get the ball to Garnacho? That's the big problem I've got. I think eventually we will have to switch back to the 4-3-3. I think we will have to do that in some certain games. But the players have got to get on with it now. You're playing a 3-4-3 and you've got to get on with it. And if you don't want to be here, don't want to be part of it, get the fuck out. Because this is Ruben Amorim's Man United now. And I will back the manager. And if this doesn't last, and he doesn't last as our manager, I will still say it wasn't his fault. I will blame Ineos. I will blame the board. Because I think now, realistically, he's going to need a miracle to turn this around. I think he's going to need a whole January transfer window, and the club are going to have to give him money. And I think for the summer, the club say we're not really expecting a massive rebuild. I think you're going to have to do it. And again, we will need a massive rebuild. You've got to get rid of 10 to 15, and you've got to bring 10 to 15 in. That's the only way it works. And Danny Murphy again said that. It's going to take millions, hundreds of millions of pounds to get Man United playing the way Chelsea did in the 3-4-3 setup. It took Chelsea hundreds of millions to get that way of playing when they had Hazard and Diego Costa and Matic and Kante, the two holding CDMs. Danny Murphy's right, I'm afraid. But then he came out with, it's not going to work. So basically, he's then contradicting himself, saying, well, it can work, the 3-4-3, but it's going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds to get Chelsea playing that way. And that's the way it's going to go for Man United, I'm afraid. It's going to cost hundreds of millions. And people say, well, Ten Hag spent 600 million. Yeah, there's a lot of money that, unfortunately, shouldn't have been spent by the manager. There's a lot of money that manager got given that should have been spent. You've got Martinez out for 3 fucking weeks. Like, that should never have happened. Going near Lissandro Martinez was a massive mistake. Sorry. Without him, we don't have a back three. And don't bring Maguire into the occasion. He shouldn't be here. Don't bring Lindelof into the equation. And don't bring Johnny Evans. The 4 centre-back should be Yoro, De Ligt, Martinez. We don't have a 4th centre-back because they're all shit. That's the problem. We don't have another centre-back to go with Yoro, De Ligt and Martinez. We don't have him. We don't have one. So we're basically having to chuck a right back into the back three because we've got no other centre-back. We're relying on Johnny Evans. Like, it fucking makes you want to cry. It makes you want to absolutely shit yourself. Like, you're relying on Johnny Evans. Imagine if we lose Evans to injury and then we're stuck with Mazraoui and De Ligt and that's it. You will then have no choice but to bring Yoro in. Yoro should have been playing anyway yesterday. There's no excuse. And there was worries that, he's probably picked up another knock. His rehabilitation has taken a setback. Again, apparently he wasn't ready. Like, what the fuck's going on? He's been back in training for weeks, but he's not ready. Like, how much did we pay for Yoro? 50, 60 million? If he's fit and he's ready, chuck the guy in. Chuck him in. Because he's going to need the experience. He's going to need the game time because he's miles off schedule. He's miles off the level of Premier League quality yet because he hasn't kicked a fucking ball for us. Like, no wonder Ruben Amorim, no wonder I feel for Ruben Amorim here. Look at the fucking players he's having to work with. Look at the shit he's got. Look at the crap players he's having to use. No wonder we didn't perform well yesterday. No wonder the players didn't do what they were told. No wonder the players down-tooled and gave up. And I'm not saying we are going to walk the bus with Bodo Glimt on Thursday. And I'm not saying we're going to absolutely take them apart. But, we need to win 5 or 6-0. We need to absolutely batter them. And people saying, well, we got a point against Ipswich yesterday. At least we didn't win. Like, you're basically saying you would rather have seen us got a point than see us batter Ipswich 5 or 6-0. If you're a Man United fan and you're hearing that we would rather see a point because it was better than Ollie and it was better than Ragnick and it was better than Ten Hag. Like, my God, you're calling yourself a Man United fan. You're basically saying, I would rather see us get a point and do better to see what we're going to get from the manager and the style of play from the 3-4-3. But you're basically saying, well, at least I didn't see us win 5 or 6-0. So you don't want us to batter the opposition anymore. You want Man United to scrape by. I mean, God, if you want that for Thursday, don't go and watch because you've got no fucking clue about football. You don't want to see Man United win convincingly anymore. Like, fuck me. If that's the mentality from half these fans and these supporters, wake up, smell the coffee and realise reality. We want to batter the opposition. We want to be the best. We want to be winning these types of games. I want to take Bodo Glimt to the cleaners. We should be beating these. But after the first 4 Europa League games, where we've got 6 points from 12, so basically on the same record as Bodo Glimt, then are you convinced Man United can do that? Are you convinced Man United can do that week in, week out in Europa League? Because I'm not, especially after yesterday. For me, yesterday was a massive reality check, and the guy I felt sorry for was Ruben Amorim, because he must realise, fuck me, what have I walked into? Look at the crap I'm having to put up with. Look at the players I've got. Look at the money that I'm going to have to spend to get this team fixed. But I think we've got to feel confident. We should have to beat Bodo Glimt. We've got to, because I think failure to win tomorrow, we're going to be in a qualifier to get through to the knockouts automatically. That's my view. That's my opinion. I think we're going to need absolute miracles to get through to the knockout stage of the Europa League, because I think the position we are in is not a good one. We are basically 6 points off. If we were to beat FC20 and we were to beat Porto, we'd have been on 12 points from 12. We're on 6 points from 12. It ain't good enough. But I think tomorrow, the start for European glories on Thursday begins. We have to beat them. We have to win. We have to get the 3 points. For me, I want to see a 4 or 5-0 win. That's me being optimistic. That's me being hopeful, because I don't expect Man United to do that. But I'm going to go 4 or 5-0, because I thought we saw a style of play which is coming through, and we're finally seeing a DNA. But all I'm going to say is, let's see what happens on Thursday night, and let's see if Man United can make it back-to-back Europa League wins. So I hope you enjoyed this live look ahead. Please hit the like button and the share button. Please keep subscribing to the channel, which is United Red Devils 20 on YouTube. Share the video, hit the tweet button, hit the retweet button. Remember to always put the notification bell on at all times to receive dedicated and upcoming brand new content of video, shorts, and live streams in this last week of November, and in the last month of December, which begins on Sunday. So we're going to be in the month of December. We've got loads of brand new ideas, brand new content, and then obviously, please join me for the full-time reaction from Old Trafford on Thursday night. Can we finally see a win? Will we see a better performance than what we did against Ipswich? Can we take Bodo Glimt to the cleaners? And is Ruben Amorim's winning start going to begin with a Thursday night win in Europa League? There's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of buts, there's a lot of maybes, but all I'm going to say is nothing's ever guaranteed being a Manchester United fan. So let's see what happens. Enjoy your Monday evening. Stay safe, be nice, be kind to each other. You're all legends, you're all legendary. Have a great rest of the week. I'll see all of you amazing people on the next one.